Hi everybody, and welcome to the 2-Acre Homestead. My name is Lisa, in case we haven't met. Well, today is Saturday, and we are supposed to be in the 70s today. And that means for where we live out here in the desert Southwest, that means spring is in the air. And we are going to be in our gardens today, taking advantage of the 70 degrees because we need to do some garden cleanup. Now, what I will say is that we are here in the desert Southwest. This is the end of January, and I know that seems kind of strange that I'm already talking about spring. I know spring is just around the corner because of my chickens. My chickens, they're starting to lay again, and we're starting to get like about 10 eggs a day. During November and December and the first half of this month, January, we weren't getting any eggs, but now all of a sudden we're starting to pick up on our egg production. So, and we've got just about 30 hens. So that tells me that we're coming up on spring. It's something that I've learned over the years and keeping chickens out here, is that when they start laying again, it's time to start thinking about spring. So I'm going to take you guys with me down to the garden and let you see what's going on down there. Well, we spent the better half of our morning cleaning up the gardens. Our gardens were a mess. And for some reason, when the gardening season was over, I just came to a full stop. I didn't even bother cleaning up after myself, so I enlisted the help of my husband and later on the family. But we just really got out here and decided to clean up all of the dead debris, clean up our garden beds, just to make sure everything is ready for the gardening season. As you can see here, there's just so much dead debris. It just was absolutely ridiculous. So then the next day, what I did is started trying to make food for the family. And on this particular day, this was a Tuesday, and I had it in my mind to make bagels for the family. This is something I don't make all the time, but I do make it frequently enough that I don't need to follow an exact recipe anymore. My family, we're a young family, so I've got little kids, and they really go through bread. So any sort of bread product is going to be eaten like it's going out of style. So again, making the dough for bagels. Now, what I found when I'm making bagels is the dough recipe for it is just the same recipe that you're going to do for any sort of leavened bread, any sort of sandwich bread or anything like that. You're going to use the same recipe. And then all I do is I make little dough balls, and I put my finger through the ball and swirl it around just like you saw me do. And once I am done, this is what it looks like. I let them sit and rise. And that's actually their final rising. And then I take it over here to the stove. And on my stove top, I've got honey and baking soda boiling in this pot. And what I like to do is what you do with bagels is you want to boil them in the water first. Now, the reason for the baking soda is going to give the bagels that tough outer shell that we're all so used to. So I flip them over after a minute. So I boil them for 1 minute on each side, and then I pull them out just like you see me doing here. and into the oven they will go. Then when they're done, this is what my bagels look like on this particular day. I'm not going for perfection here. I'm going for something that's going to fill my family's belly. And I think this is what worked for our family. They're nice. They're nice on the outside. They're nice and they're just delicious. And they have the everything but bagels sprinkled on top as well. Then I also decided to make some buns here. And they're really like rolls. They're not really buns, but this is what my family likes to eat when it comes time to making sandwiches. Oddly enough, my family, my husband included in the statement, they don't really like bread, like the bread that you're going to find in the store where it's in a loaf. They really like these bread rolls. And I can see why, because look at the inside of that. It's just nice and fluffy and soft. It's like air inside. And anytime we're eating sandwiches, that's usually how we're going to eat them. Now, I have a pro tip here for you guys, and that is when you're at the grocery store and you see sandwich meat marked down, go ahead and do yourself a favor and buy as much as you can afford. The reason I'm saying that is because you can put that in the freezer. That's where this sandwich meat came from, is it came from the freezer. And I just pulled it out and let it defrost and was able to use that around lunchtime. And it's just fine. It doesn't go bad. Your family won't notice that it was previously frozen. And this is what our lovely sandwiches look like. It is a hit in our family. They go rather quickly. Next up here, I am going shopping in our pantry. I'm getting more carrots and canned chicken. And I'm also going to snag some green beans. So based on these ingredients, can you tell what I'm going to be making? So that's carrots, canned chicken, and green beans. Well, it's probably not fair to ask you that question, but what I made was a chicken soup that was kind of on the fly. Everything in this soup came from the pantry with the exception of celery. So I had the carrots, celery, green beans, canned chicken, and even the chicken broth came from the pantry. And it was a quick chicken soup night. If you're in a hurry, this is always a hit, no matter what time of year it is, at least in our family. And this is what it looks like, along with the bread rolls. Later that night, I knew my family wasn't going to eat through all of it because of what the other things that we had planned for dinner that night. So I decided to save some of the chicken soup. So some of it I sieved so that I could keep the stock and the chicken stock, and I could drink that throughout the week. The others I decided to put in the freezer so that way when someone is sick, whether in the family or friends, I can always give them a jar of chicken soup. Next up, I have onions here that I'm frying up, and I'm getting ready to make a frittata. This is the next morning. And so I've got some onions and leftover broccoli that we had harvested over the weekend and cooked for our Monday meal. So it's kind of a leftover. And, usually in a frittata, you're going to put like spinach or something like that. But this time around, I decided to put broccoli. And what I didn't show here is this is mushrooms. And these were from the can. I canned these. So these are canned mushrooms, and I do apologize. I did not show you guys the canning jar there. But yeah, I got some mushrooms going, and then I cracked, off camera, I cracked about 5 eggs. And then I had some leftover beef, little bits of beef from Monday, because we had tacos on Monday. So a little bit of the carne asada. And then since I had leftover ham from the day before from those sandwiches that I made, so I decided to put all of that together and just let that cook in the pan for a little bit. And especially the meat, I needed the meat to just kind of heat up a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and whisk up my 5 eggs that I had cracked, and I'm going to throw those into the skillet. Now, what's sitting back here on the countertop that you see that's in that dish is my homemade mozzarella. You guys, I make cheese every single week because of our milk order that we do from a local farm here. So I am constantly making mozzarella. Homemade mozzarella is the easiest thing in the world to make. And I put that in my frittata and into the oven it goes. That was 400 degrees for 10 minutes. And I also decided off camera to whip up some muffins. And those were chocolate chip muffins. In case you guys were wondering, excuse the hair. Was still waking up in that morning. But this is what the frittata looked like when we pulled it out for breakfast. Just nice and yummy. And you can see all of the layers that are in there. My family ate this up. There were absolutely no leftovers. Muffin and frittata, it doesn't get any better than that. So the next day, I headed over to the beef freezer, and because I had forgotten to take this out earlier in the week, but I knew the next day my husband and I were going to do a date night. So I needed to take that T-bone steak out and let it thaw for the rest of the day. And so then that following, that day, this is now, I believe this is now on a Friday, or rather Thursday, excuse me. I had taken the T-bone steaks out, seasoned them as you see here, and I really like the seasoning for my steaks to be as simple as possible. So I just seasoned them with salt, as you see here, salt, pepper, and onion powder. That's it. I don't season them with anything else. And I like to sear them on each side before placing these guys in the oven. I love cooking my steaks in the oven. It just adds a different dimension of flavor in my humble opinion. And this was in preparation for date night. My husband and I, we have a very young family, and we see how important it is as a married couple to spend time with each other. You guys, if you are like us and you've got a family, and actually no matter the age of your family, I think, whether it's younger or older, it is so important to spend time with your mate. Take time to look at each other in the eyes. And, totally understandable if you don't have the means or the family and friends around you that can maybe take your kids for an evening. But whatever you need to do to make it so that you have the luxury of being with your spouse and to be able to have meaningful conversation with your spouse is really something that you want to make as a priority, because let's be honest, kids are all consuming, and when you're raising a family, it is all consuming, and it is your priority. But at the end of the day, they are going to grow and they're going to form families of their own, and you're going to be left with the spouse, and you don't want it to be where you don't know who each other are at once all of the kids have left the nest. So it's important to maintain that connection with your spouse. So here in this scene, you're seeing me chop up onions, and I'm chopping up the last of our carrots. I'm really sad about this. This is the last of our carrots. And so I'm chopping all of this up, and I put the onions in first and let them be kind of like a bed, if you will, where the steaks can rest on top of that. And then the carrots and the potatoes, that's the other thing that you see there, can kind of sit around the meat, and they can cook right alongside with the meat. Now, I do understand that the potatoes and the carrots are actually going to get kind of mushy, and that's okay. You really don't want anything super hard and crunchy other than a salad maybe, but you want your vegetables to be kind of, a little bit soft. So if they're a little bit soft and mushy, that's fine. It's not the end of the world, and it's not going to be terrible. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and finish chopping everything up, chopping up my onions, and putting some of the onions on top of the steaks as well. So that way, especially those sweet onions, and that way it can simmer and soak and steam into the meat, and into the oven this goes. It's the next day, and my kitchen is absolutely clean, and I am happy as a clam. I went ahead and turned on my oven to about, I believe it was 400 degrees, and I'm heading on over here, as you can see, to my egg drawer. Yes, I do keep my eggs in a drawer, and that's because we have chickens that lay eggs. And because we choose to keep our coops and our nesting boxes extremely clean, I don't have to worry about dirty eggs as much. My husband really keeps on top of the chicken coops and the nesting boxes for this reason. And when the chickens are laying eggs, in case you don't know, they excrete a plume or a coating on top of the eggs that keeps air and water out of the eggs, and that's why I can keep them in the drawer the way that you're seeing here. And what you're seeing me do at this point is I cracked all 12 eggs, and then I grabbed a can of bell peppers that I really needed to use, and that's because it was from 2022. And those bell peppers are still great. And that's the nice thing about canning and pressure canning specifically, is that you can keep your food for a long time. I whisked all that together, and off camera, I had put a little bit of flour and baking powder, whisked it all together. And now you see me pouring this into the muffin tins that have been sprayed with nonstick oil. And I went ahead and poured all of that in. It made about a batch, 12, what was that? Anyway, it was a batch and a half of muffins that I had made. So it was about 18 muffins total. That's what they look like. They're not muffins in the traditional sense, but they can be eaten just as they are. They make a great snack, or something for on the go. And that is what I was prepping for, because over the weekend, my husband and I and my family are going to be gone out of town. We've got some family business to take care of. And so I am preparing for the family to be away from the homestead. That's what they look like. And you guys, this is just a snippet of some of the things that we have been preparing on our homestead. And here's a look at some of the meals that I have prepared off camera throughout the week. I hope this video finds you and your family well. And until next time, happy homesteading.